and the big kids was slaying the fence. And one time, I got this scar right up here. One time, my head hit the metal, and it cut my head open. But that was one of the games we played, riding on the fence. And also up here in the front of the cemetery, we used to play baseball there. We lived right here by the cemetery, so we were not afraid of the cemetery, at least in the daytime. I don't think I played around much in it at night. Some of my siblings did. Yeah, but I wasn't too cool on playing around in the cemetery at nighttime. That was kind of scared me. We ready. Y'all hold on, we're getting ready to move.
We used to go up to HEB. We used to go up to HEB and get big old boxes. And we would dare each other to sleep in the cemetery at nighttime. And if you didn't go and sleep with us, we always able to jump on you and beat you up.
Diane, are you going? We be right back. Ain't Riggy. Can't help it. It's in the jeans. Come on. I just told them where these trees are is where your dad's house used to be. I'm Aunt Londa. I'm your mama's cousin, first cousin.
Okay.
Aunt Riggy and my mama were sisters.
Okay.
So right where those trees are, that's where your dad's house was.
Oh wow.
And we stayed around the corner. There used to be a church on this corner. We stayed right next door to it. And they moved that house. When we come around, we're going to show you where they moved that house.
Okay.
The actual house that
we picked the house up and moved the house.
it.
Get this to her. She's the narrator.
Oh, you're the narrator.
Oh. Lord, please don't let us get in trouble. Xavier, please be real careful because we don't want anybody to fall. Y'all all right up there?
All right.
Okay, we're gonna make a right turn, Keelan. Okay, so remember, where was the church? Right here on this corner.
The church was right here. Should have made a left first, went to go see the children the house.
And then right next door, kind of where these two trees are, that was where we lived at before we moved to the house that we're in now. This was right here, 221 North Pine was right next door. Around this corner, where a strip of houses, really bad things used to happen. People used to get shot at and killed. They called it Pork Chop Hill. It was a really, really bad. They used to have overnight drinking parties.
Yeah.
But it was really, really bad. When we were alive, when we were younger, Frederick's was open. They made refrigerators, and it's also considered a fallout shelter. So when we were kids, we were trained in school that if you heard that siren, that we got beneath our desk because we might be getting bombed by Russia. Frederick's is a fallout shelter. It has a, slow down, Keelan. It has a base, in the basement is where you could go if there was a bombing. At 12 o'clock noon, it would always, the siren would always go off to let you know it was 12 o'clock. Now our mother, Lily, my dad brought her a car one year. Hold this for me, baby. And mama didn't know how to drive. So, oh my God, mama put us in the car. We were little kids, we were ignorant. Mama put us in the car and I think it was Sonny trying to teach her how to drive. So this is the route we came. We left the house, we came up here. These are the cemeteries we played in like it was a playground. We good, Keelan. We good. We played in these cemeteries like it was nothing. We weren't scared. We weren't afraid of ghosts and goblins, but we believed in respecting the dead, and we felt like it was bad luck if you walked on somebody's grave. So we walked behind them. We tried not to walk across the front of anybody's grave or tombstone. Now, when Mama was learning how to drive, she made this left driving. All of these areas where we grew up at as kids, we played in just about all of these cemeteries. I know we played in this one and that one behind me. Mama made a left driving, and you see up here where the stop sign is, That's the white part is facing us. Mama turned left. She ran right into that corner of that wall and crashed. We were hollering and screaming and jumping out of the car. Somebody helped her to back it up, and Mama eventually learned how to drive. Sonny took her in the cemetery over here behind me and took her around the streets, and that's where Mama learned how to drive.
Wow.
So this was our playground, the cemeteries. We didn't mess with this one too much. I think this is owned by the military.
Yeah,
we didn't mess with
cemetery.
This one Jewish.
Yes.
We didn't mess with these cemeteries too
They
much.
used to pay us, the little boys, to put out the flags on the graves. Every year they put American flags, little small ones, around the graves. And they would pay the kids a nickel to put every flag. So we were hustling. The more flags you put down,
We're
the
gonna
more
stop.
you make.
We're gonna stop right here because, as you can see, the sign that says Center Street. This is how I was telling you when we were over in the yard. Center used to cut all the way across here.
Back to the house.
Go back to the really top.
And
there
for
was
whatever
houses.
reason, they decided to close it off.
There was houses from here all the way back to the end.
Yeah.
The Barris's houses, and then there's two more, and then our house was on this side of the swimming pool. And then we moved from the swimming pool, two houses on the other side of the swimming pool. So we've
now-
always lived in this general area all our life.
So you can see when you stand in Muzz Yard and you see Center and Pine, remember Center used to cut all the way over to Monumental. We're on Monumental now. We're ready. Carnell, whenever you get ready. This tennis court, Fairchild
Fairchild.
tennis court did not used to be there. A lot of the schools, especially in the SAISD school district, and many of you are probably in that school district if you live anywhere on this side of town. This is where they come to have tournaments sometime. When we were kids, this did not exist. Houses were there.
And it was a big park, and they took our park away from us for these tennis courts. We hated it. Wasn't nothing we could do about it.
Nothing we could do about it.
Yeah.
Potomac, to your right, runs all the way out to North New Braunfels Street. Our signs in this area are brown. Most of the other signs in this area are blue because this is now, it's called Dignowity Hill. If you look up on the sign, it's called Dignowity Hill Historic District. So the property value in this area has jumped up exponentially. Excuse me,
It
Gentry.
means a whole lot.
I'm sorry, baby. I was trying to get it.
Who got the crackers?
Who got what?
The crackers and cheese.
Oh, everybody already had theirs. Okay, Gentry. Forgive me. Okay, now he's about to turn left, and we're headed back towards Pine Street.
No. And these are mine.
All of these houses that you see that are being remodeled, that's because of something. I want you to hear this word: gentrification. The white people downtown are buying up this cheap property. Look at this one. I want you to stop just a few minutes, Cayman. This house didn't used to look nothing like this, but they're coming in, they're buying up this property, and they're selling it for over $2,000 to $3,000. Remember what I told y'all Granddaddy paid for Muzz's house?
$200,000.
Before $200,000 to $300,000.
said 2,000.
I wanted to mention that we were coming home from Fannin Elementary. That's the elementary school we all went to. And right here on this corner where you see this chain link fence, this lady that lived here, I don't know who lives there now, but the lady that, when we were kids that lived here, right before we got out of school, she heard her chickens cackling and came out to see what was going on, and there was a rattlesnake in her yard. She killed the rattlesnake and hung it on the fence.
Yeah.
So we had something really exciting to talk about once we got past the rattlesnake. The church, the white church that's there, is one of the very first churches that we went to as kids. And I will tell you this, we were not interested in getting saved and giving our lives to God. We went to that church faithfully every Sunday because the pastor had made a deal with us. He said, if you will just come to church and sit here through service, I'll give you a piece of candy. And that's what we waited for, that one piece of candy, because we were dirt poor.
That's what we
And
went for.
candy was not something that we had a
Candy.
whole lot of. So every Sunday we got up and Mama would let us. And we'd come to church and we listened to that pastor preach. At the end of the service, we got one piece of candy. We're good, Keeman.
That was this church up here?
That church right there.
Yeah, I wondered about it if it was ever. It's not a church now, right?
Oh, I don't know. It
No, it
looks
still
like
is.
I
it's
don't
New
know.
Testament missionaries.
They are meeting there?
They're restoring it.
They
Yeah.
restored. Oh, I love it. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, we were like 10 and 12 when we were going there then. I am gracefully 63, and thank God for it.
All right.
But
See,
this is one of the very first churches we went to. Go ahead, Roy.
This,
Oh, that is.
this is where our park started. On the other side of the sidewalk, from that fence line with the trees, all the way to right here. All of this was our park, all the way to Potomac Street. And I'm telling you, we had great time. It had the merry-go-round, it had the swings, the monkey bars, but we used to play football. We used
Don't
to
put
play
us on
football
Facebook.
right here. And I'm telling
All the
you,
cops.
good times.
Okay, so
Here you go, Lana.
excuse me. Of course, there was a house right behind the Delta house. They tore it down. The Delta is a sorority that supports. They do fundraising and scholarships to help support the needy. They always have some really good programs that are going on. So this gray house up on your left belonged to the Deltas. And but there were houses. There were a couple of houses off in here, and the Deltas bought that property. Whenever y'all are up here. Yes. You know something about them? You want to tell them something?
Oh no, I was just clarifying.
It used to be the Y. When we were kids, little bitty kids coming up from elementary school.
YWCA.
YWCA.
Yeah.
And we would go in, and like I told you when we were in the yard, they would allow us to have games to play, just something to do to keep us
for
busy and
recreation.
out of trouble.
Young Women's Christian Association.
What
That's
we
what it
need?
stood for.
Oh, instead of
Yeah.
Okay.
And women are running it now.
Okay.
And it's gotten so large that now they're trying to do away with it and go to a larger position. Because, I mean, and they help the black women in the community. They go to colleges, and it's a black sorority. A good friend of mine worked at St. Philip College, and she's a Delta.
Yeah.
But they all, when they come in and install as Deltas,
Yes.
they park in that parking lot, and they all in red, and
Yes,
they come
yes.
on and they walk up here, and that's when they get installed for the first time, and
Yes.
it's something wonderful to see. You know, the young women's all in there
Yeah.
in red, and yeah,
nice.
they make big money.
I want you to pay attention to the house at the corner of Pine and Crockett. Uh-oh, you okay? Now the house at the corner of Pine and Crockett is where your Aunt Jean used to live. They have refurbished this house. When she was alive, it was for rent. It was a duplex, meaning that two separate families lived here. Now, I have a family member who knows the man that sold this house. He sold it for over $190,000. We're going left. And I want to remind you what Ma paid, or Granddaddy paid for the house that we're in now. So all of these houses that are being redone, like this one right here, this house has been redone, and it's owned by mostly Anglos.
White people.
There's a great influx
They
of
coming
white
back.
people in this area.
They wanna
This house
be-
right here,
Now this the house right here.
now we're stopping, Keeman, we're stopping.
Right here.
This was 221 North Pine. Remember I told you the house next door to the church? We lived in it. We moved, the first thing we did was we moved into the downstairs, Mama and her children. And then the upstairs became available, and we moved into the upstairs. So at some point, Aunt Jean and Aunt Diane, they lived downstairs, and Mama, Sonny, Roy, Calvin, and myself, we moved upstairs. And I guess this is the owner that had it moved from one side of
This house.
Yes. This was 221 North Pine. We lived upstairs and downstairs, the entire family, all at one time.
She paid $15,000 for the people to move from that corner right here. See, the movers. Yeah.
And I think I'm looking at, what is that? Is that 303 North? What is that on there? I'm looking at
I can't see it.
something Pine Street.
Yeah.
310.
Okay. Now behind me is there was a family that lived where this vacant property is. It's all grown up, but there was a
Tates.
family lived there, the Tates. I was friends with their younger daughter, granddaughter.
Two of them.
Because the grandparents and the
Wally
aunt
and Isla.
raised those two girls, Wally and Isla. And we were very, very close friends. And they eventually passed away, and the city took over that property because the young ladies could not pay the taxes. They eventually tore it down.
Young men, I used to cut this whole yard and cut the hedges and trim the sidewalk with a hoe for $15. It took me 3 hours.
Okay, so where you see this house that's very colorful behind me, this black car is parked in the driveway. When Uncle Calvin and I got married, this also was, first of all, let me back up. Aunt Jean used to live here.
Yeah.
And then eventually, Uncle Calvin and I, this is where the first house that we lived in. Carnell? Carnell? Can't hear me. When I had, when Carnell was my baby, I lived here very briefly. I was just telling them that, yes, you're so sweet. I was just telling them that at one point, Daddy and I lived here with you. You were our only child at that time. It was a duplex. We lived on the left, another family lived on the right.
Did you know you lived there?
And let me tell you a little quick story about what happened to Carnell. I was in the house with Carnell cleaning up. Carnell was in his walker, and I was not fully dressed. And there was about steps down the back, was about 5 steps. Carnell went down the steps in the walker and landed upright. And of course, me being the good mother that I was, still am, I ran outside, not fully dressed, to retrieve my child. Just a little trivia there. So as you can see, we grew up in this neighborhood, and for many of us, we lived in this neighborhood even when we became adults. All of these houses, again, that you see that are being refurbished or
Jean used to live
redone.
right here too.
Yes, it's called, I think that was the house right there.
That was the house.
That was the house,
there.
right.
Jean lived right
I'm
there.
sorry, the one he just pointed to that's yellow, that was the house. Remember, regentification. And you will see that eventually all of these